Well, hello. I have a question for you. Do you ask for permission before you speak? Now, I know you're thinking, that's crazy. Of course, I don't ask for permission, but I want you to stick with me because I think it happens more often than you realize. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a Wednesday conversation with Constance. That's me. I'm Constance Howard, an executive coach for women who are 55 and older, women who are dealing with confidence issues or limiting beliefs. And every week I have a conversation around an issue that I hope will help empower women to reclaim their voice and their power. Today, we're talking about speaking without permission. Now, let me set the scene for you because I think that will help you understand what I'm talking about. Imagine you're in a business meeting and you're there with all of your colleagues, and the discussion is going back and forth, but you haven't been able to jump in just yet. So you find a point where you think you can enter, and you say something like, "Can I add to that point? May I add to that point?" You're asking for permission. Or you do one of these things to the facilitator or the moderator or whoever is guiding the conversation. You give them that little sign that says, "I'd like to make a comment. Can I jump in here?" I've even heard women, and I've even used this phrase. I think this may be wrong, but, and then I go on with whatever it is I wanted to say. These are phrases that you would rarely hear men say. They just jump into the conversation and let it rip. They talk over each other. They boost each other's ideas. They give each other validation, and they keep it moving. And no one seems the conversation just goes on. No one seems to notice that they talk over each other or anything like that. But that's not the case for women. Listen, my go-to permission phrase was always an apology. And I didn't know this. I didn't even notice it until my nephew pointed it out. He was probably about 9 or 10, at that age where they certainly don't ask for permission to speak. They just let it rip, right? And he said to me one day, "Why do you apologize so much?" And I thought, I don't apologize a lot. And then I thought about it, and I realized that I did apologize for a lot of things. I would say, I'm sorry, can I go back to that point that you made? I'm sorry, can I just jump in here for a minute?" Those are all subtle ways that we ask for permission to speak. And as women, we often do this. We pause. We take a breath, right? We turn our clear thoughts into questions. And we never really get to show up with our expertise and our authority because we're too busy asking, "Can I speak?" Playing this mother may I game that we tend to play. It's not because we're incompetent. It's not because we are inexperienced, that we don't know the subject matter. It's none of those things. It's not because we're insecure. It's none of those things. It has to do about how we manage the room. We don't want to seem that like we're too aggressive. We think often we think that being direct is being harsh. We don't want to be perceived as pushy or unprofessional. And so we kind of wait our turn. But while we're waiting our turn, all these ideas and comments and perspectives are being voiced, and you don't get an opportunity to participate. You never get an opportunity to show your expertise. You never get an opportunity to demonstrate your leadership skills because you're waiting for your opportunity to nicely enter into the conversation or the debate. And that's where, we lose out. we lose out on opportunities to demonstrate our leadership when we sit back and we wait for permission to speak. And again, you rarely see men do that. They just jump in and start talking. Now, you might say to yourself, well, what's the big deal about saying, hey, can I jump in here? Hey, what if can I add to this comment that so and so made? What's the harm in saying that? Well, the harm is this: over time, it eats away at your authority. It eats away at how you're perceived as an expert. It eats away at your ability to, as I said earlier, to demonstrate your leadership skills and your perspectives. And it just eats away at you stepping into your full power. You're always playing this game of being at the little people's table, right? While the big folks talk, you're sitting back and you're kind of waiting for someone to invite you into the conversation. People don't invite you into the conversation. People don't yield their power to you. They're going to go right over you. And too often, that's what happens to women when we get into these big rooms, when we get into these meetings and these conferences where it's an opportunity for us to demonstrate who we are, demonstrate our experience and our expertise. We kind of shrink back and we become smaller. We become a smaller version of ourselves. And it's why? Because we're asking for permission to speak, as opposed to walking into a room and commanding the room and helping to direct the conversation based on your experience. I'm not asking you to go into a meeting and be loud, rude, or any of those things. I'm asking you to show up with the power that you know you have, the power that you have earned over years and years of working, of learning, of researching, of becoming. That's how I want you to show up. So now listen, if you are someone, if you're thinking right now, maybe I do ask for permission. Maybe I do use those very subtle terms like, can I pop in here, or can I add to that conversation, or turn a thought into a question. Here's what I want you to do. Over the next couple of days, I want you to reflect on how you show up. I want you to think about the words you use before you get to your point. Is it, may I add to this? I keep going back to that. But do you use that word? Figure out what your go-to permission phrase is. For example, as I told you, mine was, I'm sorry, but can we go back to blah, right? Figure out what that is. And then I want you to decide in your heart that you're going to show up differently. Think how you're going to phrase your thoughts and perspectives without the permission phrase. And then start small. Go into your next meeting and try it one time, and then build on that. Because that's the only way you are going to stop this whole mother may I game. It's the only way I stopped that game. After my nephew pointed it out and I reflected on my behavior, I was determined that I was going to turn that around. And yeah, I slipped from time to time. And sometimes I slip down, but I'm very aware of how I position my thoughts and how I communicate my thoughts. I want to communicate them with authority, with clarity, right? With power. I want to demonstrate my expertise, my experience. And that's how I want you to show up in your next meeting, in your next encounter with whoever your group is. I want you to show up with power and authority. And I don't want you to apologize. I don't want you to ask for permission. I don't want you to over explain. I just want you to stand on your authority. I want you to put it in the chat what you thought about today's conversation. And let me know, what your go-to phrase is or was. Let me know. I'd love to help you with this. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be notified when any new videos are posted. Thank you for watching. I hope this conversation has resonated with you. Put that in the chat, as I'd love to follow up with you. So let me know if this conversation resonated with you. And I will see you next time.